Hello, I'm Päivi, a visual artist from Finland. I have a bit different video than usually. I'm sharing my journey in digital art, and even if you would be painting and drawing and not doing digital at all, I think you find this video inspiring because it also tells about the artistic journey and how to change your style and how to build your artistic expression and how a process can play an important role in that. I am currently making a digital artwork in a three-dimensional virtual world. I have received a grant for it from the Finnish Cultural Foundation. The project will continue until September, but it has been progressed to the extent that it's good to gather thoughts and show some results on a video. Bringing the abstract into the virtual reality was the goal of the project from the beginning, but it was surprisingly difficult to reach that level. Although my painting style is quite abstract, the project required taking abstract thinking much deeper. I found it difficult because instead of a brush, I had a bunch of digital tools that seemed to produce only industrial-looking representational stuff. I had to ask myself, what's the core of my art? For some people, the core of art is style. They say that once you find your style, you are an artist. For others, the core of art is expression. When you can express yourself, you are an artist. But during this project, I've realized that for me, art is in the process, and the expression and style are below the process. I can't be identified as a single style or a single way of expression. What makes me unique is that I can build a process where my mediocre skills in many things come together in an artistic way. But I didn't know all this when I started the project. First, I paid attention mainly to the visual language of my paintings only. I made the first 3D experiments in an app called Nomad. There you can mold digital shapes like they were clay. But even though it was a lot of fun, I didn't feel good to create something that looked so final right away. In my painting process, the details are born little by little as the ideas grow. I felt that the digital shapes should therefore be much simpler in the beginning, just like the first strokes of the brush. So I changed the 3D modeling program from Nomad to Blender. Blender is a more complex and professional program, but it didn't hurt me because I've used something similar during my design studies. Modeling basic shapes felt good. And even though I was clumsy at first, I remembered that I was also clumsy when I started painting, and I decided to be kind to myself. In the first couple of months, I looked at my paintings a lot and thought feverishly about how I would proceed with the project. One morning, I suddenly realized that I had to translate the features of my paintings to another language. The lines in my paintings could be movement in the 3D world, and the movement could make the shapes. This way, I could take my thoughts to the process of creation. I could focus more on the movement of the brush and the contents of the palette. The problem with developing abstract thinking is that we often end up taking things too literally. Once I focused on the process, I started thinking about videoing it instead of continuing with abstract reasoning. However, I got over it because I started having strange dreams. At first, I saw an empty black space and a small box there. When I got closer, there were lovely little treasures in pastel colors in the box. These kind of dreams showed me the way. Over time, they became richer and fuller. especially when I started working more and more in a program called Unity. Unity is a game engine software that is used for making computer games. Their three-dimensional shapes, colors, textures, and sounds are combined with movement and interaction. Unity was a new program for me. I had seen it a few times before and gone through some tutorials, but hadn't really done anything with it. But it didn't take long to see how much possibilities there were for art, and I eagerly learned it. In Unity, you can do a lot with mouse clicks and changing numerical values, but you really get the most out of it by programming. It had been a really long time since I had programmed anything, because my career in the IT field was quite long, and during that time I worked in many different positions. But the pleasant surprise was that the old skills came back quickly. First, I made a fairly simple video where I brought a couple of my paintings to life. Through this experiment, I discovered a wonderful thing. I can program generators that make new complex shapes by duplicating simple core shapes. This idea was completely consistent with my painting style, based on many simple brush strokes. And when I made the group of shapes move, I found an even deeper connection to my dynamic painting style. Visual work and programming don't go well if I alternate between them on the same day. When I model 3D shapes in Blender or make surface patterns in Photoshop, I use my intuition and my logical thinking is not at its best. And when I program, I have to be systematic and I know in advance what I want to accomplish. Surprisingly, my painting process already had such roles. There was an artist who made big decisions and gave direction to the painting. And then there was a different self that I always visualized as the little man in a black hat. He cleaned up the artist's rough strokes and made everything work together. When painting, I had often wondered why roll, pitch and yaw, familiar terms from robotics studies, seemed like really important concepts when painting. Even if there was only a brush, why was I always thinking about the movements of the robot arm when I was painting? Now I was concretely programming those different node angles, and I realized that a similar three-dimensional evaluation had occurred while painting. I could now concretely do it in Unity and Blender. There has been a lot of learning in this project. It has felt like I have been rejuvenated. I'm not 55 anymore, but maybe 44 or 33 years old. However, I'm no longer a child or a teenager, but capable of patience. With the patience, I first built an architectural foundation for the components before bringing the work to virtual reality. I now have scripts that generate, move, color and scale shapes in different ways. I can use numerical values to adjust them so that one script produces many variations. It's like a small factory whose equipment is made to create new things. But could it be so that the art gets lost in the factory? I have had to think to what extent I give the decision-making power to the machine and to what extent I keep it to the artist. Here I have been guided by my painting process. When I set the color scheme for my paintings in advance, I have now given the machine a set of limited palettes. I can then adjust how the machine picks colors and how often it changes them, but there's also some randomness in it. When I run the program, the colors are a bit different every time because the computer is my partner here. It would be an agony for me as an artist to produce identical pieces time after time, so I give the similar freedom to the machine. I've examined my painting process and asked more and more precisely, what is manual work that a little man in a black hat can do? So what machine could do, and what is creative thinking that must remain in the hands of the artist? There's one particular thing that the artist doesn't want to give away. It's drawing a line by hand. Even in digital art, there must be my drawing mark somewhere, my own line. Without that, I can't get an emotional connection and I lose my creative power. My line can't be outsourced to a machine. The problem then was how to include hand drawing to a digital process and do it so that it would spark an emotional connection. I found out that in Blender I can freely draw a line with a mouse or digital pen and then make a shape based on it. That was enough. Now the first lines start the connection and spark ideas like I would be painting. Only got the virtual glasses when the first version of my work was recorded as a short video. Then I moved the project to virtual reality. I still use Unity as a software. It was great to be inside the artwork for the first time. Of course, I immediately started making additions because there are so many possibilities to expand the artwork in virtual reality. The artwork is not finished yet. The most important thing that I need to do is the interaction with the viewer. I will also include sounds. Fortunately, the project still has 5 months left. The project is part-time, but on the other hand, breaks are good because the ideas have time to grow then. I'm only at the beginning of everything that technologies make possible and where my artistic thinking can go as well. It's exciting. And for a long time I've envied how the students of my painting and drawing courses have such great enthusiasm to learn new things. And now I have this situation with digital art. I'm grateful to have been born in an era where all this is possible. With digital art, we have something Rubens and Kandinsky would envy. It would be wonderful to show them all this, even if it would be only just this video. And I think a certain Da Vinci would also like to join Rubens and Kandinsky to look at the possibilities of this digital era. There have always been artists who have wanted to see into the future and go on a journey to an unknown land. I think this attitude doesn't break the tradition, but keeps it alive. I think Da Vinci has proved it, and I think that many other artists have done that too. What do you think? What do you think of all this, and what do you think about the possibilities that we have in this era?